Welcome to the final episode of season 1 of Leading Your Legacy. Damn, man, that's crazy. Like, had some really good conversations on this season, man. Talking about entrepreneurship, talking about community, talking about, you know, the creative world. But this one right here is not the same kind of conversation. This one is about family. And today, the final episode, will be housing my brother Hacks. Welcome, man.
Most definitely. I'll be saying that a lot. Most definitely. No, it's all love, man. And just love to be blessing the podcast. Most definitely, my guy. How are you?
Wicked. I'm blessed, you know. Yeah. Today's been a mad busy day. I can't lie. Like literally, like from going to the gym and then to the back home and going to the barbers and meetings and stuff.
You're looking
like,
fresh. It's a bit mad. But yeah, man. No, you're looking good, man. It's making sense.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it, man. And before we get into the real crux of the conversation today, I want to give them just a little flavour and insight into you, because obviously, like, as I've been moving forward in my life and I've been trying to create things from like inception ideas and not really having a lot of guidance, like I know that there's not many people who know how much you've contributed to that journey, just in terms of how, you know, you supported me in the music side, thinking about how to creatively think, to, you know, the academic side, making sure I'm patterned when it comes down to academics. I know you've been on to me bare times when things went a bit left, like not even just academics but in life, man was moving a bit, you know, off road, and then yours like, nah, like try to come back into the to the things, and just giving me a platform and a basis to move. So I really hope that like those listening in, when they're listening to you, can really just take in the full vibration and flavour of your life, because I feel like, you know, as much as I know that there's a lot of things that I've done over time that has done like really well, like madly well, I don't think people would, when they listen to the podcast show or listen to the other interview, they really get that perspective. So I really hope that they can be blessed to hear like your journey. And I won't go too much into my brother because he's way better at explaining who he is and how he moves than myself. So, but I really hope that they take that in and they really feel that vibration from you.
Yeah, most definitely. Obviously, our whole kind of pattern, our whole way of thinking is about, you have to win. Yeah. Not just for other people, but most importantly for yourself. And if we're kind of moving away from who we're meant to be at certain points, so when you explained about when you was a bit younger, perhaps you was going to doing your own thing when perhaps that was the wrong way to go.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it was just my kind of responsibility, if I have the wisdom at the time, to share the wisdom and just make sure that you are able to be, one, confident in who you are, and two, the best version of you, so you can then serve the world pretty much. So I think it was just my obligation, to be fair. Yeah. To be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure, man. And let's get into you from childhood days, man, because obviously, like, we know the childhood days, it wasn't the easiest days at all. Like, there was a lot of things we had to manage and build and grow and develop. So what was the childhood like for you, like, not just as my older brother, but just you generally, and how your life was and things that you was thinking about?
I think when I was younger, I was always like gifted and talented. So I was always a very driven person. So naturally, like yourself, I was able to play like multiple instruments, like guitar, piano, doing the grading system, like classically trained. So I think when I was in probably year 6, so when I was probably 11 years old, I was like grade 5 of guitar, and there's 8 grades altogether. So I was competent at guitar, and probably grade 5 as well, around that, grade 5 at piano as well. So I'm 11 years old, playing multiple instruments, and just gifted and talented. So I was always, for some reason, there was something inside of me that knew about like discipline from a child. So even though growing up, where obviously you have your neighbours that are doing whatever they're doing, you see police doing whatever they're doing, it's not making any sense. But somehow I was able to insulate my mind from the environment and just make sure that I was consistent in what I was doing, whatever I was doing. So I used to, as a child, I used to be like very creative. Like write comics, like write scripts. So I used to, I think when I was playing the piano, I learned the Spider-Man theme tune, and then that then brought me into reading the Spider-Man script online. I think there was one website that
used to play it out. That was a mad thing.
There was one website I was even going on. I don't know what I was doing on Google. I was doing, and this is dial-up times as well. So I was doing the most, but I was able to like write scripts. I was very creative as a young child, like gifted and talented, and like very competitive as well.
Yeah.
Like very competitive, like in football, like very competitive. Where teachers would even say, like this, you know, you're too competitive. Like tone yourself down a little bit, cut down to size. But yeah, man, I was on point. To be fair, in an environment that wasn't really making sense and perhaps wasn't giving me in terms of the wider environment, the home life was good because obviously I was able to practice my instruments. But in terms of the wider environment, it wasn't really conducive to that type of energy I was putting out because it was quite positive and creative. Yeah. But I can't lie, man. I had a good childhood. I had a good childhood in primary school. Yeah. For sure,
Yeah, for sure, bro. And actually, it's quite funny because I feel like the term gifted and talented as a young child, it's one that, you know, usually comes from practice and one from refining. And I remember a lot of the time that when I heard gifted and talented, I initially thought, oh my days, you have to be gifted and talented because you're just born with it. And you know, that's the only thing that matters. And I used to feel really insecure about that as a child. And I used to feel like, well, I could never reach that standard. But then when I actually observed what it actually meant was, you know, the art of developing your mastery. And then that was not something that I was actively doing. I was doing the opposite as a kid, as you know. I wasn't trying to refine my skills in the same way. I was a bit, you know, disruptive in class. I wasn't necessarily that. Was you was more focused and calm. And I started to learn how the art of being gifted and talented isn't necessarily thinking it's just the fact that it's born that way, but it's refined and built over time. And that's something that I learned from you as a child. It's that you had to repeatedly develop your skills and invest in that for other people to then take that mindset that they can take your gifts and your talents into full effect.
Facts. And I don't know how I knew that as a child. I just remember playing piano, playing guitar, fingers burst. Like guitars are mad one to learn. If you know about that, playing the guitar and practicing it.
I don't know.
Fingers are worn out, busted, broke. But I don't know. I just had the affinity to learn and like I think it was the competitive nature. Yeah. That was very much practice, and then deliver. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, as a child.
Yeah. That's blessings, brother. And how do you feel that you as a person was able to navigate the two worlds of trying to essentially excel academically in school? I remember at school, like it was always known that, you know, you was able to be bright and basically like do well without essentially the typical education of you might get a coach or tutors, whatnot. You pretty much knew how to pattern it. So like, how did you manage that whilst being in an environment whereby it wasn't necessarily conducive to you necessarily having that investment in the same way other people might have had later on in life?
I think, and that's an interesting question. I think like, growing up, I don't know. I've seen the people. I remember one time getting chased by one pit bull in the ends. Listen,
in the cage.
I don't know what was going on, man, but I was zipping. And that's probably why I don't like dogs, you know. I'm not going to lie from that moment, you know, but
it happens.
I was on a move. I was wasting no time. But for me, the lifestyle just wasn't lit, bro. I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't making sense to me. It just didn't look appealing. Yeah. I don't know. Do you know when everybody's doing everyone's doing the same thing? Yeah, literally. And then, I don't know, as a child, for me, it wasn't really making sense. Obviously, you had your people that were doing whatever they're doing. I weren't in that space with them though. Yeah. So me and them were cool, we're good. Yeah. But kind of like on my kind of terms. So it's more like playing football. Yeah. As opposed to running up and down, doing whatever they're doing. That was kind of how I patterned it in terms of the boundary of it. But for me, it just didn't look appealing to me. Yeah. It just didn't make sense. Like what I was seeing through my eyes and who I wanted to be, it didn't align, my guy. Yeah, you know, it just wasn't making sense, my guy.
You know what's so funny about that though? I feel like I remember when we was younger, and we used to look outside the window, innit? And then we used to say, but man, there must be better opportunities, you know, if you go to like Nigeria or something. But because we didn't really travel, we didn't really know that these things existed. It was more like, I bet you if you go to somewhere like that, it's going to be vibes. It's going to be like, you can make peas and you can grow. And that's one thing that I really learned at that time was the ability to create spaces that maybe not everyone else was be able to make, because I suspect that your individuality was one that was easier to do, and the people that you knew and you made sure that was around me and make sure I was good also wasn't trying to veer too many into those roads and then be in a better role, and I really can see how that's affected my mindset now. And as you went through school and you started to grow and develop your individuality, and obviously you had more friends from outside the area once you went to secondary school and started to develop in your own way, like what do you feel like was the key points where, you know, you really started to tap into more into your talents? Was it the football? Was it trying to be entrepreneurial and trying to create, you know, like some products and distribute it to not the fiends but the clients?
Well, definitely the clients need to get fed, and I'm the man to feed them, bro. Most definitely. Most definitely. No, secondary school was, again, it was the same formula. So top sit for the most of the subjects. But people didn't know I work hard. Like behind the scenes, I'm working hard, so I was able to like maintain my position there.
Yeah.
In terms of my talents, probably so I was always good at piano. So I remember like playing in school concerts. That was good. And I started to dabble in like music production as well when I was in secondary school. So I was using a software called like Cubase. Yeah. Now Cubase, if you know about Cubase, this is like Windows 98. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, it's not. It's a bit difficult to navigate and maneuver and extract and create now. But that was my software of choice back then. So I was using Cubase to do my music production. So I started to like compose songs on the piano and write them and like rap and sing my own type of songs. So that was interesting. That was in year 7, year 8.
Yeah, I remember those times.
Yeah, that was interesting. And then like from an entrepreneur perspective, I don't know, man. Like we were playing PE and people were hungry at PE, and this is a common story. This is not I remember those, like I've just invented water for people. This is Lucasades, McCoy's, and even with the McCoy's, I used to like sell McCoy's, and I used to do like meal deals. So I don't know if Tesco even had meal deals. I might have. I think I invented it. I think I. No, I'm joking. So it was the McCoy's. I had the McCoy's, Capri Suns, and like Rocky chocolate bars. Yeah. So that was like a meal deal type of situation because people were hungry. Like I think Jamie Oliver came in with everyone trying to have, everyone has to eat healthy. I've got you guys. Like if you need the sugar to keep awake, I was the guy for that, man. And I was trying to differentiate myself from the market. Because at the time there was someone else selling like Walkers. Yeah. And obviously I had the McCoy's, had the rigid texture. The rigid premium. It was the premium version. So if if you want the premium version, you pay double. Yeah. But you're nice. So that's when I started to dabble a bit more into like competition analysis, target market, and brand differentiation. And that was entrepreneurial, but it didn't go well. I didn't say it went well, was it? But that's when I started to dabble in it, though. Yeah,
that comes from business school, you know what I'm saying? It was just like more like, having to learn like, how to do things in your own way, and also you can only supply what's available in your environment, I guess, or what you perceive in that environment. And I think one of the blessings of coming from communities where maybe you don't have the same level of exposure to like derivatives, stocks, property investments, is that you find your own way to develop your income stream, or find your own way to develop your pathway, and that was something that I think we was constantly talking about as we got further ahead into like adolescence and transitioning in more into adulthood. And I know in the secondary school times it was quite challenging because, as you know, when you come from ends, like a lot of things happen, and someone got through like situations, and you knew people that did. Like, how did you make sure that in your world that your ambition was the thing that kept you on the road, as opposed to essentially conforming to things? Because when you turn 15, 16, it's a lot harder to say, I'm not rolling with you, I'm my own man, when really, when you know that bus ride, you're going through the area, not everyone's gonna like you because of where you're from. When you go to the school, not everyone knows you like that. Like, how do you keep that ambition amongst potentially other people, or your own opportunity transition into a different
I think so just give me one sec to think. So in secondary school, so even what was interesting is, even though I was like in top set, so obviously I went to ADT or Ashcroft Technology in Wandsworth. Yeah. And even at that time there was a lot of gang violence in South London at the time. So that was an interesting time just to be in the school. There was a bit of like, there was like other schools in the area, like Silesian College, if I can remember, is it St. John? There was another school, local as well.
Southfields was local.
Yeah, the
as well.
Southfields, Elliot.
Yeah, I remember Elliot. Yeah. Roehampton.
Yeah. But there was a lot going on at certain times, and even to like. But it's interesting because I was, for example, in the top set with people that maybe had a very different background from me, but I was still kind of mixing myself up with everyone else who was doing all that foolishness as well.
Yeah, for real.
But it was necessary kind of to understand how things work. People are different. And even in terms of obviously going to school in South London and then coming back to West London, taking the 220, like there was even somebody and a group of people that we used to like roll with at the time, kind of like school kind of roll with, not like on a gang vibe, but just more from school, who actually went prison. Yeah, I remember. In like when I was in year 8, I think they were in year 7, but he went prison for manslaughter. Yeah, I remember. So it was on the papers. Yeah. So we used to all roll together. So it kind of taught me that like the people around you, you don't really know what's going on fully. Yeah. So it's kind of best just to do what you're doing, be easy, and just crack on, because that kind of came as a shock to everybody. But at the same time, it wasn't a shock. But at the same time, anything could happen. Literally. So it kind of taught me that just kind of have your own boundary. And even though that's a critical stage of your life as well, you're going into teenagehood. Yeah. You have to just be careful with what you're doing. So you can be gifted and talented, but that doesn't make you immune to life as well as a whole. So I think I got taught that young. So even if you're smart and stuff like that, you're not wise. Yeah, for real. Look, at you're smart doesn't mean you're wise. And I suspect that there's so many people that were so smart when they grew up that unfortunately wasted their potential. And that's one of the things I really hope we get across, like in these conversations, is that, you know, your legacy can literally go one way or the other depending on your choices. You know, it's never really the case. It's just going to be one day you wake up and, you know, you're smart and then everything works out for you. It's more though things happen over accumulation of time, and what you invest your time into and your energy into will mostly manifest the opportunities that you present yourself. And I think that's happened a lot in where you are now and in terms of impact and what you're building. But in terms of just transitioning away from school and going past college side, because I know university side was a lot more important for you in terms of, you know, your development as, you know, someone who was entrepreneurially minded, but also as somebody who was very inclined to succeed academically and in terms of just their career. How did you find that transition from coming from communities such as those where you got people that go through, you know, a mad thing, they might end up in pen or they might get a charge, or people that might not necessarily understand your mindset, who might see themselves as your equals? What was that step away from that environment for you like? I think if we just take a step back, so just before I went to uni, I took a gap year. Yeah. So in the second year of college, I didn't do too well. Yeah. So for my AS level, I done well. So I got A's and B's. But for the second year, I didn't do well. I think I got C's. Yeah. So I had to actually redo my second year. Yeah, and that was a mad setback. Yeah, so I was actually meant to go to Brunel. Yeah. So I got into Brunel Uni, but I had my eyes set on like Birmingham University. Yeah. So I was gonna go Brunel. But then in terms of making sure I go to Birmingham, I actually had to go to night school. Yeah. So I'm like 17, 18, having to go night school, basically. I remember the days were from 8 to 8. So the last class was 7 to 8 p.m, studying a biology A-level with adults. Yeah. And that kind of taught me about the resilience and like the resolve. And that kind of got that resilience and resolve in me. Yeah. That, like you said, you need to kind of put your mind and your energy into things that make sense for the bigger picture, and you have to sacrifice. So I got taught that lesson. So I got taught like 2 lessons just before I went to uni. One, when things are going well, that's when you need to graft harder. Like you need to go even mad, because if you take your foot off the pedal when things are going well, trust and believe, like just as good as it went up, it will come down. Yeah. And then that's what happened in secondary school. But then it also taught me that nothing can really defeat you properly unless you actually want it to. Hence I went to the night school. Yeah. Hence I grafted, and then ended up getting into Birmingham Uni. So what I initially put my mind to in the first place actually came true a year later. So I think that's like a key piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah.
That I think I should just mention in terms of don't rest on that intelligence or your perceived intelligence. You have to work hard.
Yeah.
And align that with your intelligence, and then that's where you can go clear.
Yeah.
And then, like I was saying, that's when I really focused on like university and making sure that my grades were good. But Birmingham was cool. I think I had a few challenges though. I don't know if you want to hear about some of the challenges.
Of course, I do.
I had a few challenges in terms of it was so far away from home. I felt that it was too different from what I'm used to. So I studied a mathematics degree. Yeah. And it was only me and maybe two other black guys in the lecture. And there was a lot of people from like private school. And there was obviously international students from like China, for example. But definitely at that time, it was tough for me. Even though I had earned my way into uni, there was definitely like an imposter syndrome. And it kind of manifested in terms of my energy and my vibe. I kept a lot to myself at that time. So it was a bit of a strange time for me, actually. I would say the whole of the uni was a bit strange for me, but definitely the first year or two, it was weird.
Yeah, I can imagine, bro. And the reason why I felt like university was the real time that, you know, you started to form the substance, in my mind anyway, just being your younger brother and observing, was that I felt like that was the time when you officially left the environment that you had come to understand and knew into a complete unfamiliar environment whereby you had people from like private school or people from different backgrounds and less people who you could identify with as quite similar to you. But I can also see how that college experience was transformative for you in terms of, you know, not taking your talent for granted and trying to maximize your grind on the pathway towards, you know, developing those foundations so you can get to where you want. And in terms of you going to Birmingham, you really feel it out of place at times and not really feeling as if you could connect with people in the same way. You know, you talked a bit about the resilience that you needed at college, and how did that time at college help you to navigate those challenging spells when you was transitioning into Brum or dealing with people who you might not initially identify with?
I think definitely from a resilience perspective, it helped me academically.
Okay.
So academically, I was astute. So I was beaten, even though I had to do some of my exams again. It helped me. I had momentum going into uni, so I was able to do well. So academically, it was good. But definitely from a social perspective, it wasn't really. It was okay. So like people knew who I was, but I was always wondering why do these people know who I'm not even about. Like, I'm just trying to focus on this maths, even though people knew me around, so they would say hello and they were calm, but I was on edge at times for some reason. Probably the change in environment, probably because I put too much pressure on myself to do well. I was too focused on doing well, so it was a bit of the resilience primarily played a part in academically doing well. But I didn't really learn about in its entirety in terms of how to then translate that to everything during, especially not the first few years of uni. No.
Okay. It took some time.
I had people around me. I had some good people, and I knew people across the different unis in Birmingham, so like Aston and Birmingham City.
Correct. Yeah.
And University or College of like UCB as well. So I knew people around. I was blessed, and I was a blessed person, but I wasn't fully myself. Yeah. For whatever reason, probably due to what I was explaining about studying maths and having to now pattern differently with different types of people who do things in a different type of way, who may already have like a preconceived judgment on how you speak and how you operate. And that even came to fruition when this was in the final year, so I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but when I was doing my dissertation on Bitcoin. Yeah. So I done my dissertation on Bitcoin in like 2015, imagine. Long time ago. So I done my dissertation on the mathematics behind Bitcoin. Back then like that. Long time ago when Bitcoin was like £100. But when I done my presentation for the dissertation to my tutor, he even told me, Hakeem, that was good. You know, that was a really good presentation, but you sound like you're from London. you don't sound like you're from England. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So it was all mad. It's all like weird. So it's kind of like making me think, is there something wrong with the way I'm operating? Like, is there something,
it's a bias.
how I think and how I speak? So I think that kind of just permeated in how I was at the time. So
it's so mad that we had such similar experiences, because I remember somebody commenting about the way that I communicated as well. And when I was in uni, and they were like, oh, they used kind of my background in getting opportunities for black men to discredit me, in a sense. To which they actually said, like, oh, you're not in the hood anymore, so you should start acting like it. And I found that quite intriguing, because I ended up getting a first in their module, and then they didn't really, they didn't, I guess to this day they're still trying to figure how that happened. But those kind of experiences, you never forget them, and they hopefully shape you for the better, as it did, because you got your first class.
I ended up zipping out, most definitely. Zipping out with a first class overall as well. But I think it kind of impacted the way I operate though at the time. So I had to go through like other phases of my life to really start to really unlock the true essence and like the true, not just the true self, but the true intelligence that can really occur if I wanted it to, as opposed to having like a layer, like a counterfeit type of layer, which I think started to mold at uni because of the situations. So academically, it was still blessed. Like, still zipped out with a first. You know, so.
And I'd love to understand more about the transition from uni into like the graduate world, and trying to find that, you know, identity in yourself, in terms of not having that counterfeit identity, and then trying to push forward more entrepreneurially. You know, what was the key parts that you found was really crucial in uni or post graduation that helped you to really shape that identity that you wanted to have, as opposed to was being created due to the environments that you found yourself in?
But this may be a bit of an unpopular opinion though. This may be a little bit controversial, but I believe there is a funnel for like people that were black people in unis to then go in the corporate world, right? Without them ever knowing who they are.
This happens a lot.
So they think they need to be a certain type of way to do well. And the uni's kind of, the way that the structure is, it kind of molds you like that as a person. Like, you need to be like this, because if you want to get over there, this is the setup that we got over there, and this is how everyone acts over there. So you need to, even if you wasn't ever like that. So unfortunately, a lot of us that are, you know, we can do useful things in this world, we don't actually know properly who we are. We take on the identity as like a university graduate, or like a grad, like intern at this bank or at this firm, and then we go into the graduate world and we don't actually know who we are. So even for me, I went into my graduate scheme, and I wouldn't know if I don't at this point, I don't think I even knew who I was properly though. To be honest with you, I didn't fully know who I was. It was more so I was good at maths, bang that, grad scheme great, bang that, let's do this now, let's crack on. Like, this is, I think, what I meant to be doing, type of thing. Like, you go uni, you do the grad scheme, no one really talks about what happens after the grad scheme, but you do the grad scheme and then you crack on.
You just get filtered through. Innit?
So that was kind of like the path I was going at that time. And I appreciate, I met some good people that helped my life in many types of ways.
100.
So it's an interesting setup, but that was the setup that I was going through at the time.
Yeah, and I can definitely say it exists in many different fields, that funnel of, you know, trying to extrapolate people's academia and pull them into an area whereby they're essentially just part of the machine. And they're not really able to look creatively, they're not able to express themselves, because every time they do it, they'll go back to square one. But I wasn't trained to think like that. I wasn't indoctrinated to think certain things. And then people kind of have like a midlife crisis whereby they're making money, but it's just in the lens of the corporation institution. It's not them using their God-given talents, or they're not able to be part of something that is able to develop them into the next level. And I think the work that you're doing in that respect, I think, is to be admired, because I think it's definitely needed. And in terms of that period of, you know, graduating and finding identity and only really confining in a few people, what was the key things that happened in your life that allowed you to transcend beyond that corporate identity to be able to bring about a newfound understanding of who you are and what you stand for?
I was just gonna say, just before I answer that, so what you're saying is true. There's a lot of people I know, and I understand, because I used to be like that.
Yeah,
I understand. So
yeah.
I used to be like that when I've sacrificed kind of who I'm meant to be.
Yeah,
You know, there's a disconnect between the voice in the back of my head and what I'm actually doing,
absolutely.
and it's causing pain. So I understand how that is, going into maybe a corporate environment where as a child you had ambitions to like write books, to do like write poems, to do spoken word, or to be creative, because I think we're all meant to be creating in some capacity.
Absolutely.
So I'm just gonna say, just comment on that. I understand how that feels, and that's why I'm passionate about be you first, and then everything will come to you, as opposed to try and become whatever, you know, naturally people are veering you towards because they think it's the right thing for you. Only you really know what's the best thing for you, so you need to do it fearlessly.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make a comment about that. But in terms of my
sense.
story, so I think I was in Ibiza. I was in Ibiza. So this was like normal. So let's just paint the picture. So I was grad scheme, going out on a Friday, chilling, drinking, 'cause I used to drink. Just normal stuff.
Yeah.
Just normal stuff that everybody was doing. So obviously, naturally, it's what you're doing if you don't think for yourself.
For real.
So yeah, so I was in Ibiza, and then I think was it Tiny Temper? I see Tiny Temper. So we're just chilling. There was a batch of us, normal like guys' holiday, Ibiza.
Yeah.
And then Tiny Temper was on the stage, and then Tiny Temper was on the stage, and then I don't know what happened. Most definitely, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, but at that moment in time, like time kind of stopped, and all the guys were around me like mosh pit, hey, pass out, all of that.
You weren't on it.
But something, I weren't on it. No. I weren't on it for some reason. Not that moment. I wasn't on it. But then I looked at the stage and I'm like, basically at that moment, all of the images flooded back into my mind of like me playing the piano, from what I said earlier about my story, like me playing the piano, like writing songs. It's like, I'm actually talented at music. I actually should be on that stage. Yeah. In some capacity. Like, why am I mosh pitting? Not like there's anything wrong with it.
For real.
Of course.
You let man do that.
It's just not me.
We're not judging you.
Yeah. Of course. But it's just me. It wasn't my... Something wasn't right. So when I said about that difference between the voice in the back of your head and your conscious behavior, something wasn't right, and it was highlighted in that moment. Yeah. And I just said to one of the brothers, I'm meant to be on that stage. Yeah. And then I just made a decision that I'm actually gonna pick back up my musical talent. Yeah. And then I think that was the beginning of then starting to really burn away the layers, kinda. Yeah. And then start to understand and open up my mind and start to give my talent to the world.
Yeah, and I definitely say that when you have those kind of experiences, you never forget them, because in a sense you come to this definitive mind state whereby you know it's almost like you're doing yourself a disservice by ignoring your calling or ignoring what is designed for you. And I strongly believe that when you come off the road for a long enough time or what you're meant to go, the road will disappear, because ultimately the omens will show you need to go in this direction and you should pursue this. But if you keep ignoring it, there will be no pathway, because it's not particularly something that draws your spirit in a certain direction, and then you just get railroaded into whatever you need to be to get by. And that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing's meant to be difficult. If something's difficult, then it means there's a disconnect It's not meant to be difficult. It's meant to be hard.
Mm.
You're meant to work hard, but it's not meant to be difficult. If you're meant to be doing it. If it's all difficult and it's causing you pain, then in my opinion, you've come off the path.
Yeah.
And the pain's trying to correct you back onto the path you're meant to go on, because you're not meant to be doing it.
Yeah.
Because you're meant, like I said, you're meant to work hard. You're meant to be focused. You're meant to have a plan. But it's not meant to mash up your brain. Like,
Yeah, for real, man. For real, man. And in terms of that journey of trying to rediscover your talent and to bring that to the world, like what were the key moments for you where you felt like, you know, your talent really manifested itself and you was able to show the world like his hacks and he's what he's on? Like, what were those moments for you?
I had glimpses. So
Glimpses.
All throughout my journey, there was like glimpses. So in terms of like the intelligence as a child, playing multiple instruments as a child, like even the entrepreneurial spirit I had as a child as well, as a teenager. Then like the setbacks, then having the resilience to bounce back. Then like the first class in maths, even though it was a very difficult environment, and then going into the grad scheme. So in terms of music, so I was starting to produce. So I was just working hard. I was in the studio like every week. Like Friday to Sunday, Friday to Sunday with my guy Rico, and like sleeping over in the studio, madness, like proper graft.
Yeah, real.
Not showering. Smelly, bro.
Just out here, man.
Smelly beats, stinky beats.
There's
But
a
the beats
bar,
are hard though. The beats are hard though.
There's
The
a
beats
bar,
are hard.
like,
Yeah,
been in
we'll
there 2 weeks,
yeah,
put 8 bars.
yeah, crazy. Like proper, but that was the graft. We were grafting hard. And then things started to work. Like, things started to work. We had a few opportunities. Made some tunes that people liked. I met some good people along the way.
Yeah.
And I suppose one of the other bits so this was like a year. So I came back from my beef, and then like within like a year, I was like working hard. So I had some tunes that like people liked. Some industry stuff. Yeah. Like, it was good. Working with people that I actually looked up to.
Respect.
Musically.
Yeah.
Like Pep. There's a guy called Pepstar.
Pepstar, right, okay.
Yeah, but cause I can produce, like when I was younger, basically he done something called SBTV where he was like making the beat like on the piano. Yeah. Like making the beat, looping the beat, and then rapping on the beat.
Oh,
so
right.
He done it in one session.
Yeah.
But I was a child watching that, and then obviously making a song, and he's on my beat as well. Like Avelino.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
one.
so that was like Seagull as well. We had a banger called Amber.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. I think the streets like that one. Yeah, that was interesting.
Like the guitar riff as well.
Yeah, that one was interesting. And then I think I had this tune with Asen as well. Yeah. Within the year. This was all within the year. So was it within? Yeah, it was within the year or year and a half, something like that.
I think Akino was around that time as well.
Akeno,
yeah.
That was all within like 1 year, basically. So after making a definite decision to say that I'm not gonna waste my talent, like within a year, basically, I was able to work with people that I looked up to as a child and get respected in industry circles and stuff like that. So it was interesting. I met. What was another interesting bit about that story is within the year I met DDB as well.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I met DDB and on a music kind of like production type of vibe.
Yeah.
But me and her actually got along.
Yeah.
Like, do you know when people just get along and it's cool, like, because you know sometimes a lot of the time, do you know when people see people that may be like known, they act a bit different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they want something, but it was never that deep to me. I just had made a decision, and then I just go with where my heart was going. Basically, I was just cracking on with it. I wasn't really trying to take from people. I just wanted to create. Yeah. And then we got along, and basically, like, she must have just liked the energy, the aura, and then she said, I know like you produce, but you want to come on tour with me and like you can DJ and produce and crack on. Yeah, I remember. Crack on. I was like,
trust me.
Let's crack on.
Yes, sir.
Most definitely. I told you that's my bit, most definitely. So we cracked on, man, and it enabled me to kind of, that opened up my mind. Yeah. That opened up my mind. So imagine you're growing up in London, then you go to uni in Birmingham. you go to like Ibiza, you go on holidays, but then that's it. Like you go to other countries for holidays, basically. But when I was touring with DDB, it was more, we got work to do. So it took me to like LA, like New York, around the world basically. Like Amsterdam, like Germany, Israel. I've been in Israel and Russia. Imagine.
Yeah, mad man. Before everything.
That's what I'm saying. But for all the madness, I've been to both places.
Yeah, it's mad.
I've been to both places. So I went around the world basically, and that's what I'm trying to say. It may not sound real. I made a decision in Ibiza to do something that was in my soul. Yeah. And then I stuck to that. So I came back to England and I stuck to that mind, that idea, and just followed it through. And then basically a year later, this was all like within a year, maybe 2 years, but within a very short space of time, I was on stage where the first show was in like Switzerland, then like Paris, Australia, New Zealand. So when at that moment in Ibiza, when I said that, I'm meant to be there. Yeah, you ended up there. Talent, I was actually there. Yeah. So it's mad.
I know, and that's
mind is crazy.
And I guess when you develop the confidence in your talent, and you start to manifest that, you know, you don't waste your talent. You know what I'm saying? You allow that talent to manifest itself and seize the opportunities that come out. And I remember that period in your life whereby, you know, you locked in to what you felt like should have been the experiences that you should have already had, and then it all just kind of came out of the clear blue sky and started to manifest itself. And I know obviously after that period in time, a lot of things happened to take you away from the path of being so engaged in the industry and starting to create and to shape, you know, more entrepreneurial ventures. And how do you feel from the transition from the music into like entrepreneurship that you've used either use your talents or use your experiences to make sure that part of your journey was one that, you know, was one that you could see would reflect your talents in the best possible way?
Yeah, I think if I understand the question correctly, so I think one key thing though we need to remember is that I spent a lot of time with D, innit? Yeah. So why for that? I'm joking. Yeah, with DDB. I spent a lot of time, so I understood kind of how she thinks. Yeah. And in the UK, there's not many people that kind of think like that. Yeah. So I understood even from an entrepreneur perspective that she had like a fan base in different countries. So we go to like Paris, we go to like Berlin, and maybe people in the UK don't really like recognize or respect it, but she was actually like it was patterned in a good way in terms of she had like a natural relationship with a cool audience. Yeah. So, and it was big on authenticity. Yeah. Like that's kind of like her whole vibe is authenticity, being herself, and putting out like a good vibe for people to enjoy themselves, or like a lit vibe for people to enjoy themselves. So I kind of like learned like from that experience that you have to be real, man. Yeah. Like you have to be real. Like you have to be real. I think people are tired. People are tired. Even with the Cat Williams interview. If we fast forward it to today, fast forward to, but even with the Cat Williams interview, people are tired, and that kind of taught me that you have like if you're gonna do something, do it properly. 100%. But at least be real to yourself. So at least everything you're saying, everything you're doing, it comes from the essence. Yeah. Like that is important. If that is not the case, then you'll never be happy. Because you're not doing it from a place of love, you're doing it from a place of greed. Yeah, you're doing it to either finesse somebody or you're doing it just for your personal gain. Absolutely. And it doesn't make sense. So you have to do it from a place of love, and it needs to be real. Yeah. To actually serve people. And that's kind of what I learned from that experience. And that's kind of what I do today. But there's a few like bits and bobs that kind of enabled me to do it. Yeah. Though prior to me doing it. So when I came back from the tour, so I was in Australia, and Australia was interesting. It was interesting. Yeah, man. We were touching 2020 as well. So there was like funny stuff happening, especially in Australia. things were getting strange with the music. Like, music's very powerful.
Yeah.
And do you know when people say about like music doesn't impact you?
Yeah.
Like, I've been creating music as a child.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's all about frequency and vibrations.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
man.
there's a frequency that you can create with music that makes people feel a type of way, because obviously emotion is just energy in motion, right?
Yeah.
So you can alter somebody's emotions with music,
That's true. Yeah.
because it's just the frequency. And if you can say for example, if you stand next to a piano basically, and you hum a note next to a piano without pressing a key on the piano would then make a noise it will make the same sound as if you played the key. So hum a noise like the piano would then make the same without you even pressing the key. And that's because the vibration that you put out from your voice has impacted the hammer on the string on the piano at the right frequency in terms of what you're projecting from your mouth, which means that basically music is emitting a frequency that will impact your frequency and change your frequency to that frequency.
Yeah.
And that is something that I understood was powerful. Where was I with that one? I was gonna spin it into a new point. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. That is something that was powerful. And Australia, there was a weird frequency at one point.
Yeah.
A bit devilish.
Yeah.
If I say so myself. Now, I'm not talking about like devilish in terms of a red man with a pot belly with things coming out of it. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. But in terms of like a very low frequency, like a very low frequency, like bass level frequency, so like animalistic, and it impacted me at the time. So I had like sleep paralysis when I came back to London, and that's when I knew I had to make a change internally. That was my first experience of like spirituality, actually. I hadn't really experienced anything from a spiritual nature, even if that moment in Ibiza could be perceived as like a spiritual epiphany. I didn't really see it like that. That was just me making a decision. But this was like the first time I properly clocked that we live in a spiritual world, really and truly. And then the physical plane is just how we interact with it. And then I needed to make a change internally at that time to then get a different outcome physically. Yeah,
for sure, bro. And I know when you experience something like that, you know, it shifts the course of your trajectory because, you know, you can see things definitely exist and you can understand the importance of it to control and master your energy. And I know you've been doing a lot of work to control and master your energy since those experiences, and how you look after your health, look after fitness, and how you've looked to develop Impact as well. So for you, like on the journey to developing things that serve people, as you said, out of the love for them and not just greediness of gluttony, like what has been the key parts of your journey that you really want to share with people that has really helped to take you on that journey further and to create the man that you are now becoming?
Definitely the key bit is the worst bit. Yeah, the key bit is the worst part, I would say, of my life. So when I came back from Australia and I had to make a decision, that was good. So I was able to make a decision. I had obviously had my maths degree and had experience. So I was able to go back into work. Corporately. But then a situation happened where I was working with people that may not have liked themselves, to be honest with you. And that's okay. But unfortunately, it kind of, for some reason, it put me into a position where I felt suffocated. It was strange. It was like a weird situation where I was getting blamed for stuff. Now, I can take accountability for where perhaps I went wrong, and that's something that I need to correct. But when you're working, especially in that consultancy, it can become very cutthroat at times. So there was a moment where I felt that I was getting blamed for things, which was really tough. Because that's one, I'm not really used to that. If you just remember the trajectory of my life, like I work hard, but then 2, situations were being manipulated, so it was getting weird for me at the time anyway. And then I actually had like a mental like breakdown / breakthrough.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, my guy had committed suicide that year as well.
Yeah, I remember.
So that was like a mad, like there was like a
two things.
Yeah,
at once.
like it was very mad
Remember that day?
at the time.
Yeah.
And then that breakdown was, which I now call a breakthrough though. I would say was the seed of everything kind of falling into place. Now it may sound crazy, but like literally the worst time of my life was the springboard for me to actually become great properly. Like if you look at my life, there was parts that were great and different. So like traveling like Wireless, Glastonbury, like I've been able to experience stuff that maybe not a lot of people could experience. So there were glimpses, but this was the time where I knew that this was like life or death. Like I had to kind of face myself. Like it's either I stick with the old me, or I'm done. Like it was that serious. I actually had to kill the old version of me. I actually had to kill it, like in terms of like any challenges I had, like my behaviors, my thinking, my relationship with myself. I had to actually kill that version of me to become reborn as a human. And that was crazy. Like I remember in my bed, like duvet over my head. I didn't even want to get out of my bed for like 2 weeks. Happens. Like it was mad, and like, I remember crying. And this is just being real, but it was, you know, like it was going through the valley of death. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, where it's just mad. Like I didn't even know what was going on, man. But like I said, it was the rebirth of like a version 2.0. And I'm so thankful to myself. I thank myself every day for, you know, building me through that. And then most importantly, I thank myself for never leaving me. Because only really that voice in the back of my head was the only thing that was able to, I had to reconnect with the voice in the back of my head. Yeah. Which is my true self. To then be able to come out of that type of situation, because my physical body wasn't reacting properly to this at all. But that enabled me to be best friends with myself. Yeah. And then have that self-love. So when you said about like looking after myself, I started to understand that if I don't give myself love, so if I'm not healthy in terms of physically, mentally, spiritually, if I don't show myself love, how am I meant to give out love properly? How can I give something I don't have? Yeah. But that was the situation, that was the moment that so far in my life anyway, that has enabled me to like be best friends with myself, trust myself, love myself, be kind to myself. And it came through those 3 steps. It was like accepting something was mad. Hence I had that mental breakdown basically. So it was like self-acceptance. Then like the knowledge and understanding, and then naturally it was the self-love.
Yeah, that makes sense, my brother. And do you know what? I think that period in your life, it was one where I looked on it and I said, yeah, it's going to be a definitive moment still, because I think when you go through something whereby your mind starts to become your worst enemy, then you have to reconnect with a new part of yourself to be able to get that part working again. And I've definitely been there where my mind stopped working in my favour, and it meant I had to kind of re-navigate how I looked after the mind.
It's your ego though. It's your ego.
Yeah, a part of it's the ego, but part of it's my trauma as well. Part of it's my trauma. So in my way, it was a part of it was like, you know, trying to understand and fathom about how do I process things and have a confidence in that, because I didn't think I processed emotions or conversations in the right way. It was like, if you say something like randomly, I'm taking it directly like, oh my gosh, like they're trying to find out what happened back in 2021, but it's not reality.
When I say the ego though, I mean not like you think. Do you know when people say you have a big ego? Yeah. Not like in that type of way, because that's like more pride. But like when I say your ego, that's like your emotions, anything to protect you So do you know, like, your true self? Let's say your true self is like a little bull.
Yeah.
A bull, sorry. Your ego is like the wall to protect that little bull, because you may feel vulnerable to let that bull shine, type of thing. So a lot of the time we build up like these false personas, that emotions, thinking patterns, personalities, to kind of protect ourselves. And it may not be who we really are, man. But definitely when something crazy happens to you where you have to face yourself, like have to face yourself, because now is time, bro. It's life or death type of thing. That's when you start to really step into your truth.
Yeah.
Until that happens though, it's going to be very difficult, because it's like a pendulum. So on a pendulum, if nothing's going on in what you're doing, if you're not trying new things, if you're staying comfortable, basically, there's no energy in the pendulum. There's no energy. It's just stagnant in the middle. But as soon as you put some type of energy into it, even if it's negative, say if it swings negatively, it will swing back positively. Now you are more advanced in terms of your knowledge of yourself.
That makes sense.
Like, it can't be stagnant, basically. So I think it's just being careful of our personality. That obviously we have a natal personality that we're built in. But
what does that mean?
Like you're born with, that you, like when you're born as well, a natural personality. But it's being careful of like a personality that you build up to protect yourself, as opposed to letting your light shine for whatever reason. So it could be trauma, it could be insecurity, it could be what happened to you, you as a child, which may be trauma based as well. It could be an inflated sense of who you are. So you may think your achievements or what you've done make you think that nobody can tell you anything. So you have a personality that's quite abrupt and quite aggressive to people. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a lot more ego though, where it's like you're allowing your sense of self to control like the way that you see the world, and also like you're not allowing other people to help guide your perspective, because you live in a bubble towards their perspectives, and you're just trying to rapidly build yours. And I would definitely say that I've seen a lot of things change for you since you had that breakthrough, in terms of how you've really crafted your path and started to create your vision for what you want the world to be. And from going forward, what do you feel that will be the key things that really harness the truth of your legacy through how all the lessons and the challenges and the talents that you've had are being further developed through your increased sense of soul?
Yeah. So definitely the breakthrough allowed me to find my purpose.
Yeah.
And stick to it, most importantly. So that is to be, the vessel and ripple effect for people to never waste their God-given talent.
That's right.
And why is that the case? Because I used to be like that. I nearly was like that. I nearly was like that. So like I said, as a child, I was always creative. Gone through uni, and that nearly got shelved. Because I didn't shelve that, enabled me to then travel around the world. Great. Cool. So I learnt my lesson. But for me, that's a talent. It's a gift that I've been blessed with. But I didn't think, especially when I was like producing and stuff, I don't know if I was using it in the right type of way that harmonized with my soul properly. It didn't really come, it was from my essence, but to be honest with you, it became more about reputation and like financial gains.
Right.
It wasn't to do with service to people, which is for me what a purpose should be.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was able to find my purpose, like I said, to be the vessel and ripple effect for people to never waste their talent, their God-given talent. And a few months after that, I met up with Lee.
Yeah.
So Lee studied mathematics as well at Birmingham University. A mutual friend connected us, and we had stayed in touch. He was always like very intelligent guy. I always respected him highly, and we caught up for dinner. It was just on a calm one. Caught up for dinner, and by this time I had been writing down my purpose
Right.
twice a day. So when I woke up, I would write down my purpose. When I would go to sleep, before I would sleep, the last thing I would do is write my purpose.
Right.
So immediately when I wake up, I write it. Just before I sleep, I write it. So in my subconscious, I was being indoctrinated with my purpose. So naturally, when you know something
Right.
in your brain and in your mind, deep in your mind, you're more aware of the situation. So do you know when people say about the Tesla? If you're looking out for Teslas, if Tesla's on your mind, you will see more Teslas.
Yeah.
So it's the same principle in terms of whatever you're trying to achieve. If it's always on your mind, if it's become an obsession, if that's what you're living for, you'll start to see opportunities.
That's right.
To serve your purpose. So I met up with Lee, and we started to have like accountability for each other.
Yeah.
We started to do it together because we both kind of realized that one, we're talented, intelligent people, but we could be serving more people basically.
That's right.
We could be making more of an impact in terms of what we're trying to do. And we just met up on a weekly basis, started to develop a system, like a framework, and then it started to work. So for me, it started to uncover that I was doing too much.
Yeah.
And doing too much, and it's all about focus.
Yeah.
So I can make the biggest impact because I was always a hard worker.
Yeah.
But biblically and just wisdom, if you're doing too much and if you're basically not finishing a lot of things, you're doing a lot of things, but you're competent and you're hardworking, there's no difference between you as a lazy person that's incompetent.
Yeah.
You both have the same outcome. So I started to really crystallize that type of messaging and like make a change.
Right.
And then from there, we started to develop the system, and it started to grow into impact, really.
Right.
So it came from an organic place where now we just had our Christmas dinner, and we got like feedback like Wimpacts changed our lives.
Yeah.
Wimpacts, if I wasn't using Wimpact, then I don't know if I would have taken that step forward. I don't know if I would have been brave enough.
Yeah.
So Wimpact basically is Wimpact's an AI-enabled like SaaS solution that helps people with their visioning, as well as provide accountability to do so.
Yeah.
So that's what it is in a nutshell, and the way that we've been able to serve people and how we're going to be serving millions globally. I just can't wait, and it shows that your mind is powerful,
right,
and it aligns to the purpose to never waste your God-given talent.
Yeah, I can see that, and I know that was an accumulation of various factors that led you to that AI SaaS solution, and it was something that was organically done, and I'm really excited to see how far the concept can integrate into wider society, into different industries. And in terms of Wimpact and in terms of you yourself, like, what do you hope that your legacy will be for those that are going to come across you within that capacity, even the new hacks that's now emerged from the breakthrough?
Yeah. I want people to be themselves. Like, when you're around me, man, just be yourself.
Yeah.
I want you to have anyone that meets me, they already know that I'm a little bit different in terms of I'm just authentic to me, and I show love because I look after me, so I can show love easier. I don't feel a type of way to show love. It's all love for me. Love is the most powerful frequency. Yeah. You can't go wrong with love. When people meet me, like, the feedback I've got as well is just like when people see me and they're like, I don't want people to be inspired as in you've done it so I can, but I want people to know that you can do it because of who you are. Yeah. I'm only doing certain things, I've been able to achieve certain things because I kind of know who I am. It took a while to properly understand it and then articulate it, but clearly there were glimpses of that. I knew who I was. Yeah. And when I say who I am, I'm talking about the voice in the back of my head. Yeah. I'm talking about an actual manifestation of God.
That's correct. Yeah.
I know that. Like, it's not like I believe that. So say, for example, if you've got rice on the cooker and I ask, is the rice ready? Is the jollof ready? You touch it, I believe so. Or someone else can say, yeah, I know so. I'm gonna believe the person that says I know so. So I know I'm a manifestation.
I believe them as well.
Yeah.
With the good jollof.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
that based off a few things, based off how the world's kind of been built. So like, because of my maths background, I understand like Fibonacci sequence, which is basically the foundation of mathematics, pretty much. Yeah. But even plants, the swirls.
Yeah.
That's based on the Fibonacci
number 9.
Yeah, and that's based on the Fibonacci sequence. That swirling pattern, and you can find that in DNA, how it swirls. You can find it in your fingerprints. You can find it, on the weather forecast with the swirls. You can find it in the tornadoes. You can find it in ripple effect. You can find it in the universe, the galaxy as well. And that's like based off Fibonacci sequence. Right. So I know that I'm from the same makeup as that.
That's correct. Yeah.
So if the creator creates, I know I can create for my mind. And as above, so below. Yeah. As above, so below. My mind is my own universe. So I can create my own world. Because the world is just a perception. But I know this though. So if people knew this, they would be great for you. Like, be great for you. Don't be great because you see someone else do it. So that's my whole thing. I don't want to inspire people. I want people to know for themselves that they are great because of who they are, as opposed to what other people have done. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so you don't want people to follow other people.
Yeah, you don't need to follow because you are great for you. You're great for you because you're a blessing. You're alive. You're alive right now. You don't even know where we came from or where we're going. So right now we're alive. So it's like, be great for you. And you have the capacity to do anything you want. But they have required big sacrifice though, man. If people knew the sacrifice, man, like I said, I used to drink and stuff like that. That all had to get cut.
Absolutely.
My thoughts, even from a sexual perspective as well. Yeah. Discipline.
Very much
serious discipline. Yeah. Because that's your creative energy. That's your life. Your life force, even as a man, and there's a mad epidemic right now. Yeah. Where it's not looking too good for the mandem in terms of like social media and stuff. It's looking a bit wild. Yeah. But there's sexual discipline that can then propel you to the next level. If people knew this though, it's knowledge of self, man. Yeah, it's knowledge of self, and I think as we look now forward into hopefully what Wimpact can do, I hope that people can really take in the blessings of like how you've looked at the challenges that you faced, and you found out a solution that can help millions of people based off your own self-reflection, and then managing your own emotions and managing your own sexual transmission, and also how you clarify your intention to serve and to lead. I think all those things are really important. And from my perspective, to let the audience know as well that like I know how much I have to learn just based off my own accountability and my own self-reflection. And it does start with self, and I really hope that those that really take in your journey and really listen to you, who don't understand the full scope of who you are, can at least take in. For me to understand the full scope of anyone else, I have to understand the full scope of myself, and then take it from there. What's your experience been of Impact? Yeah, I'd say my experience has been hard. I'd say it's forced me to have a really serious look in the mirror, and to take into account all the small things that happen over a period of time. As somebody that likes to, look at maybe success as, all right, we can get this done. Sometimes when you look at the metrics and you look at your activities, you think all my activities are lining up, but why is the results not there? And then you notice that, I'm not even measuring some activities that actually might be reflective in my lack of development in X. And it forces you to have to do things that, quite frankly, you want to do, or do less things that you don't want to stop doing, but you have to stop doing in order
to move forward. And I think it's that facing self that's been the hardest bit, because I'm involved in so many different things. It means that I have to now kind of consider, all right, cool, I can't do that in the same capacity or ability, because that can't be the priority if this needs to be A1. And it's meant I've had to make decisions on how I move, who I speak to, because certain people you speak to, they're like, oh yes, go X, Y, and Z. And you can't do that, because you know you have to keep yourself in check and keep yourself in motion. Otherwise, you'll see I'm not gonna get anywhere if I don't do that. So that's been my experience. It's been hard to face those smaller activities as a scope of moving forward, but I think it helps to look at things gradually, as opposed to just it's not being done. Why? It's this can now be improved if X is done.
And would you recommend it?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
You know,
Man.
most
Listen, you got me on camera.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got me on camera. I'd say you know you'll find a link in the description as well for Winpact. Tom will be able to include that as well as on the social media for Hacks and finding him. For me, it's definitely something that I found to be hugely useful in terms of understanding who I am as a man, understanding who I am as an entrepreneur, and who I am as somebody who wants to lead their legacy across various spheres, but primarily through how I present my ideas via the vehicles that I operate. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I'm gonna.
No, that's good, man. And I was gonna say, just even in terms of what you mentioned around having that discipline, it's important. You know, you have to sacrifice. You have to pay the price to lead your legacy. You need to pay the price. You can't afford to. Nothing's for free. That doesn't even exist.
Yeah, for real.
So to have a legacy, something needs to give.
Correct.
But then the question is, what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to cut loose in order for you to be your best self, serve the most amount of people? Because you need to be that person. You actually need to become that person that radiates your message. It needs to be real, or you won't last long.
That's right.
It needs to actually be from the core. So I respect that, and I respect the fact that you was able to know that, you know, change my world, conquer my mind, I can conquer the world.
That's right.
That is a reality. Conquer your mind, the world is yours.
Yeah.
But it's just a perception. Like, it's not as fixed as it seems, and it's how you interact with the world is how it will change.
Yeah.
So it's good that you came to that understanding, and even from, I was gonna say a bit earlier, but even for this is more for the guys in terms of like how we're maneuvering.
Yeah. You listening?
Yeah. This is for the guys, and I've had to learn the hard way. So this is not me standing on standing tall and above everyone else. So it's not that deep, or a stage to speak about like to everyone else like I'm better, because I don't think I am. I think everyone's on their journey. But what I do know though is that even from a sexual discipline perspective, a lot of people, especially in the Western culture, we misuse and abuse what we're doing, and we waste time. So if we know that we have the power to make children, imagine, so basically putting a baby in your wife's womb, or whatever the case is. But imagine if you can put your ideas into the womb of the world. Like, imagine if you can put your ideas and your creations into the minds of other people. Like, that's the type of power we have. Like, that's the reality of the situation. But like I said, it creates a lot of discipline, courage, and then like sacrifice to be able to do it in such a way of flow and of like where it takes courage to be able to do in such a way where it's of ease. Because it shouldn't be difficult, which is what I was saying at the beginning. It shouldn't be difficult. It shouldn't be difficult, but it requires that work, that hard work and sacrifice. But that's just my spiel. It'd be good to hear what do you think? What's your take on it? If we have the power to put a baby in a woman's womb, why can't we have the power? It is the same basic, like the same essence that can put your ideas into the world and make it grow like a child. Your ideas into the audience's heads when you're speaking to them. And the love that you can put out to the world amplify it.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? As
Yeah.
opposed to just wasting it like on OnlyFans
Yeah.
or them or all of that stuff, man.
Yeah, indulging like adult content and all of that
stuff.
I think it makes sense. I think as somebody who has had to have discipline to be able to create quite a few different vehicles in order to, you know, bring it to life, I think, you know, I've definitely had to learn the importance of, you know, bringing things into life and allowing it to influence and move people into different ways. Yeah, it's definitely something that I think is important to do, and definitely something that I know from my experience that, you know, if you don't bring anything to life, you're just going to be subservient to everything that already exists. And, you know, and part of the reason we bring together this podcast show because I don't think there's enough conversation about people's legacies or about conversations that are beyond the surface level for people that deserve those conversations to be had, who might not be asked to discuss and share more about what their life brings to the world and what their visions are. And I think it's I've always believed it's important.
Most definitely, man.
Yeah,
I have nothing more to say about you.
Sure,
But in terms of like,
Yeah.
I know you said about the legacy thing. Yeah, making people be their true self. Making people never waste their talent in any way I can help. Even for my music, so I'm gonna be creating more like healing music. Like more composing music.
Lit.
Products, services such as Wimpact, like Wimpact Academy as well.
Yeah.
So like I said, when I was at university, even though I was gifted and talented and doing what I was doing, I wasn't around like maybe people that were like me, that were on the same journey.
Yeah.
So that's what Wimpact Academy will be doing.
Yeah.
So enabling, you know, the younger people, the younger generation, for parents that may not be able to afford private school.
Yeah.
But to have the private school advantages, like sharpen your communication, learn how to strategically plan.
That's right.
Learn how to tactically plan as well, and then communicate with other people, other students in a similar environment. That's on the pipeline. That's in the pipeline, and that's how we can develop and expand. So that's like how I can help and serve people. But yeah, man, as long as it all ties to being that vessel and a ripple effect for people to never waste their talent, then that's something that I'm on. And Wimpact is the way I'm doing it at the moment. So,
come on, man. We're excited to see it, man. And I hope you guys look out for Hacks, man, because, you know, I've had 26 years to take in Hacks and his thoughts and his perspectives, and I really see Wimpact as a vehicle that can hopefully bring that to life. So that concludes the last episode of season 1 of Leading Your Legacy. Hacks, do you want to let them know where they can find you, where they can listen to you?
This one,
Yeah, man, go for it.
That one. Yeah, so that's Instagram.com/Hakeem Hunte. So HakeemHunte. And then if you want to hear more about my music that I've done, so Instagram.com/_HAKS, so Hacks. If you want to see about Wimpact, so that's wimpactonline.com, Instagram Wimpact Online. Let's lock in, man.
And just so you guys know, Hats doesn't only create Wimpact, but he also created the theme tune for the show as well. So make sure you know.
Most definitely.
Until next time, let's go.